So I'm going to get started here. So my name's Corey White. I am the technical director here at HPDC, and I am very excited to show you what version 3.0 is all about. And that's going to be going into effect the end of September. So we still have a couple months, but I want everyone to be aware of what's coming down the pike here. So originally this was presented in July, if any of you were on the MAP or UAP calls, but I have slightly updated it since then. So this again was originally presented in July, but there's a small update here for August. So let's get started. Overall, version 3.0 compared to version 2.3 is a digital shift. So we're transitioning from our static PDFs to dynamic digital HPDs. So some of you may have already gotten started on some of our dashboards that are digital in our repository, where you can do real-time data filtering and things like that. And this is just going to allow, just first off, better searchability of HPDs. I think that's something we continuously got feedback on, is we want to make sure that manufacturers' HPDs can get in the hands of project teams, and project teams can filter and find the HPDs that they need. This digital shift is going to allow you to do that easier, whether you're a project team, architectural firm, and then for you manufacturers, it's going to allow your HPD to get searched easier. So originally, we really were going to go completely away from the PDF, but everyone's so familiar with the PDF that we will still have a PDF option, within the repository, but the searchability is still going to be in this digital nature. So what we're going to be going over today is the interactive HPD, and then some slight updates that a manufacturer would see in the actual HPD builder. So the first one would be the product type enhancement, unique product ID, an update to the metal alloy special condition to make it more usable, a revamp of section 3 for social equity surveys, and then finally the PFAS attestation. So let's get right into it here. So version 3.0, again, is this interactive modular HPD format. The whole goal is to make things more searchable, filterable, and more visually appealing, right? So we've got color coding in here now, right? We're able to more easily go through the content inventory without it being 20 pages long. We can go in and see exactly what we want to be able to see. In addition to that, we also are able to analyze all of the data within these HPDs now, and that's what a lot of people are seeing in the dashboard as well. But we can also do this for our pre-checks. So on the screen here, you can see all of the different pre-checks that are set, and we can easily see whether they're aligned with certain criteria or whether they're not aligned with certain criteria. And that's going to be really important in the near future because as more project teams like Bora creates their criteria, their architects and designers are going to be able to go into their specific repository that's been created for them and source materials based on that criteria. And in the pre-check here, the aligned and not aligned here, you'll be able to see that in the HPD builder as a manufacturer. So that's where we're communicating across that divide from manufacturer to project team through the new digital outlay that we have for the repository and the interactive HPD. This is also going to allow us to create more modular views. So the EU HPD is going to be another thing that's going to be implemented here in version 3.0. And we also have had interest from Latin America, from Asia, to create similar views as well. So the EU HPD is going to be a test for this. All we're doing is we're taking the data that's in the builder and filtering it slightly differently for the EU market to make sense what the EU market would want to see. And we can do that same sort of thing for other markets. So again, that modular view and this digital data is really important to get the information in front of people that want to see specific information and maybe not every single data point that an HPD has. Another way to increase searchability is the product type. So this was originally implemented in version 2.3 with the most used CSI classifications, but we've now harmonized with Athena and harmonized across, I guess, the ecosystem to include all the CSI classification numbers now. So this is going to help us improve just data consistency industry-wide, and also it's going to allow us smarter filtering and searchability. So, you know, a lot of people might be looking up drywall instead of gypsum board, right? We'll be able to include synonyms in here. So now gypsum board will show up when people search for drywall. So there's just more specificity than the CSI classifications. And we've increased the amount of product types now that a manufacturer can select to increase that searchability. The next change is a new data field. It's the unique product ID. So you'll see this little product SKU. You're going to be putting your product SKUs here into the HPD builder. And what's going to happen is we're going to create, once it's published, a HPD unique identifier. And how you should think of this unique identifier is it's sort of like a digital fingerprint for your product. Okay, so there's some things that's helpful. It prevents data duplication errors. It prevents, you know, similar product versions and things like that. But the biggest thing that this is going to support is traceability across the digital ecosystem. And there's a lot of eyes looking at what we're doing right now across the digital ecosystem, because this is something that the entire ecosystem, from creating an HPD all the way to, you know, the platforms that suppliers are choosing their, you know, products from, they want to be able to trace where the HPD went through the ecosystem, and then, you know that it was purchased from, you know, ABC architectural firm for ABC project. So we're starting by just gathering this data, but the end goal is to have a seamless cross-tool integration between all the different partners within the digital ecosystem, so a manufacturer can see where their product is being used. And better decisions can be made because of that. The next big update is the metal alloy special condition. So the metal alloy special condition here, before we simply had we only had the ability to use a trade association metal alloy HPD. If one was not available, then the special condition unfortunately could not be used. But now, if there is a trade association metal alloy HPD, which unfortunately right now only copper has been created, then you can select that copper alloy or that trade association metal alloy HPD, you can select that and it will autofill all of the information for you. So it's a lot easier than it was before. But there's now a second option. So let's say it's not copper, you want to do something like aluminum. Then you can simply select no here, and you can start adding your alloying elements within the special condition. So you're going to choose the percentage of the element of the alloying element, the threshold, the material role, all of that. You're going to build your own inventory, and then what will happen is each one of these selections will automatically be screened through Pharos. So the hazard screening will automatically happen, and before it was a manual effort, and the additional listings also will automatically be screened and put on the HPD. Again, before in version 2.3, that was another manual effort. So a lot of bottlenecks have been fixed here in order to make this much more efficient for manufacturers. So you can see here on the screen here, we've got our aluminum piping, and then we have our little inventory underneath that metal alloy. So a lot more convenient than it was before. And another great feature here that manufacturers requested and we figured out how to do is there's now a copy and paste button here. So we can paste that alloying element to different HPDs that you're creating. So then you don't have to spend all of the time recreating that inventory over and over and over again for all of your HPDs. So we're really excited about this one. This is the #1 bottleneck that was identified when we took a look at all the different, areas for improvement, a lot of the special conditions and some of our best practices, metal alloy was number one because it really couldn't be used and it was supposed to be more convenient for the manufacturer. So more to come on these types of improvements in the HPD. We have other ones like impurities and residuals that we're going to be working on, along with the other special conditions where we're going to be automating some more of those in the near future. Next one is a revamp of Section 3. So our social equity technical subgroup did a lot of work last year looking at all of the different types of social equity certifications. And we found out that it was really like the wild, wild west. There wasn't a ton of consistency. So what we needed to do is we took a look at the hundreds and hundreds of them and boiled it down to figure out how do we need to modify Section 3 in order for it to continue to take into consideration things like our VOC information, but also so it could fit social equity certifications. So that's what we did. We have updated that section to include several different inputs so that a social equity certification can easily be added into the HPD. So you can see here on the screen, this is what the new input looks like, and now social equity certifications can be added. And the reason why this is important is because, again, if we zoom out from just HPD and take a look at the entire digital ecosystem, right now, social equity, there isn't a ton of like information to say this is what good looks like. And the only thing they're really tracking right now is social equity certifications. Okay, so we wanted to make sure to be able to include that in the HPD so we could participate in those different social equity initiatives across the digital ecosystem, so manufacturers' products can be seen in more and more places. And that gets me to the next part here, the social equity survey. So we have a Design for Freedom through Grace Farms. It's questionnaire. It's a very quick questionnaire that we're hoping that people can fill out. It's all optional. But as I said before, the digital ecosystem, the ecosystem as a whole, they don't necessarily know where they're going next with social equity. And this information is going to be really valuable to help us make informed decisions going forward. So where this is going to be is this is going to be right up next to the support. It's going to be a Design for Freedom questionnaire. It'd be really great if you could fill that out so we could collect some really good data to help, just understand where we need to go next. And really not just us, but the entire ecosystem as a whole, where we need to go next. So that would be really great if you could do that. And that was implemented so we could make better decisions here. The last change is the PFAS attestation. So think of the PFAS attestation sort of as the antimicrobials sort of module, where this is all optional, but it enables proactive PFAS disclosure for reporting underneath the threshold. So this was created to go underneath that 100 parts per million or 1,000 parts per million threshold, so that you could determine and make that attestation to show whether there truly is PFAS in the product or not. And the goal here is to provide some information for manufacturers. We have a lot of best practices that are available for manufacturers, where to start, how to do lab testing, all of that fun stuff we've also included on our website. But the whole goal here is just to support manufacturers in this journey. This journey is very, very difficult for manufacturers to do. There's a lot of reformulating that needs to happen. And a lot of times people don't even know where to start. So in order to support those manufacturers, we've given the ability to include all this information, things like lab testing, things like the different regulatory frameworks that they need to comply with, through Canada or the US. And also here, I'm going to skip through this a little bit. You can also screen your CAS numbers here very easily within here. and screen all of those cast numbers, and it will tell you whether it contains PFAS or not. So it automatically screens against the GSP I6 classes, and it will easily let you know whether there's the PFAS within the product. So for manufacturers that are maybe just starting this journey, just starting to understand whether they need to start reporting to some of these state requirements, or, there's the US TSCA requirements that are supposedly coming down the pike eventually. We're allowing and giving them a tool to use in order to start screening their products maybe for the first time. And if they are way beyond that, we're giving them the opportunity to actually have that attestation on the HPD, and instead of having to send a bunch of different documents, they can send the HPD and say, hey, yep, this is the attestation for PFAS, since so many people are asking for it anyways. So we're going to have more information on this. We're going to be having another webinar in September, specifically on PFAS. So join in on that. Mark your calendars here for the beginning of September. We're going to have 3 different perspectives. We're going to have Allison Smith from our architectural firms and project teams perspective. We're going to have someone from GSPI, the Green Science Policy Institute, to talk about the science behind the list that we're screening against. And then we're going to be talking about this tool again to show how we can support manufacturers. All right, so those are the big changes. But really behind the scenes for the builder and the repository enhancements, there is another small change that has happened. So we can now screen via a cast number, which everyone is familiar with, but now we can also screen via EC numbers, which is really EU specific, or the European Union specific. So this is going to help us better align with the European market, and it's going to help us support the implementation of the EU HPD. The other nice thing about this is the EC number. Many times there will be multiple EC numbers to one cast number, so it will allow for more specificity within some of these inventories, especially for the EU market, who has a much different regulatory environment than the US and North America. Again, streamlined data entry. So a lot of the improvements we're trying to make is just to make it easier and easier to do this complicated work. So we're going to continue to make this an important effort. Our technical subgroups and technical committee are currently looking through all of the different bottlenecks that we see, specifically a lot of the special conditions and best practices. We're continuing to take a look at that and already have plans built out to continue to improve those in the future so we can continue to streamline data entry. Because in order for more people to participate, we need to continue to make it easier and easier and cheaper, right? So that's our goal in what we're doing. We have the enhanced repository dashboards where we can filter the HPDs by product type, green screen scores, hazard list, PFAS, right? So if you haven't checked out those enhanced repository dashboards, make sure to check those out, because it's a really great way to find HPDs that maybe you couldn't find very easily before, okay? And then we just have the improved visual tools. So again, check out the repository, check out the interactive HPD that should be available here at the end of September. And those indicators, you'll be able to tell sort of what good looks like at a glance. So we're really excited about that because as things continue to change with these modular updates, we can now make improvements much quicker as well. So we're really excited about that because we can continue to reach different markets that are asking for this type of information, right? So we're taking a look at the EU right now. We're, in the future, we want to take a look at Latin America. We want to take a look at Asia. And on the other side of things, we can cover different scopes like social equity, right? So as we continue to expand, your feedback is really important because that's going to shape what we do next. But the core of what we do is still always going to be transparency, but transparency is needed in a lot of different areas. So final takeaways here and calls to action. First off, right, this is our homepage. Take a look at the webinars. So this is constantly updated by our marketing manager, Jeff. So take a look at that, participate in new webinars. There's going to be another one next week with Mija. Take a look at new tools here underneath the Material Health Tool Suite, and there's more best practices and information here. And yeah, go ahead, go into our repository, check out the digital flexible repository and the new version 3.0 HPD, which will again be available at the end of September. But explore the resources, and if you want to, maybe if you're not a member, or you know someone that maybe wants to be a member, or maybe you just want to know more about some of these features, schedule a meeting here. I'll put a link in the chat, but schedule a meeting and we'll get that set up for you. And with that, that is all I had. So I will see if there are any questions in the chat here.